Well, there isn't much about this unit that I would call easy, but the dates really are easier. They're also important. Basically, in Italy, the Proto-Renaissance period, that was last unit, is the 14th century, and the most important painter from that is Giotto. The early Renaissance is the 15th century. Note that the lives of Cosimo de' Medici and his grandson Lorenzo pretty much span this century. Note, too, that the century opens with the Bronze Door competition and more or less closes with Leonardo da Vinci, who's kind of the transitional figure to the High Renaissance and is usually listed as a High Renaissance artist, one of our superstars. The first half of the 1500s or the 16th century is the time of the High Renaissance and our other superstars, and Leonardo works into this period. And the ascendancy in art really moves in this time from Florence to Rome. Now, notice you do not need to know these specific dates. I included them just to give you a sense of where these various works fit in. And note particularly how in the first decades of the 16th century, many of our important works are clumped together. Okay, I thought this was a tough question, so I'm giving you the answer, and now you have to either remember or look up the building itself. That's an architect, by the way, that you do need to know. He's important as an architect and as a writer. So here was, I thought, another tough question, and therefore I'm giving a gift to the industrious. Note that this unit includes a lot of works where the College Board expects you to be able to make quite a precise identification. So this question in various forms shows up on several tests. Here are a couple of Titians to help you think about your answer. And Titian is the most important and the most characteristic of the Venetian painters, although Giorgione is also important, and soon, actually, I guess Unit 9, you'll be looking at Tintoretto as well. This is Bacchus and Ariadne, and here's another Titian, the Venus of Urbino. These are two separate questions on the test, as were the questions about Titian and the Venetians. So consider yourself warned. This work and this artist are College Board favorites. So in thinking about this question, ask yourselves, what was Julius II trying to accomplish in Rome? I mean, he had a religious objective, but he had a political objective as well. And remember that Rome was both a political and a religious center for the papacy. The Papal States will be a state, that is a nation state, well, nation's a little confusing, but a state until the 19th century. Also, while most of us are familiar with Michelangelo as a sculptor and a painter, it's important that you know his architectural work as well, including, of course, the Dome of St. Peter's, which is not pictured here. So hint here, this statue was not made in the Renaissance. Sorry, now that I see this full scale, I realize the photo is a little blurry, but you should recognize it. At any rate, it's easy to find in your textbook. This is an important statue that could show up for more than one unit on the test. So this building is another College Board favorite. It's very distinctive. It's not hard to identify, but you may find the architect a little trickier. This is another one you need to know. So careful here, there is more than one set of famous doors in this unit. It's quite easy to tell them apart. The gates of paradise are gilded. And to make your life easier, both sets from this unit are produced by the same competition-winning sculptor. Okay, careful here. There are two famous equestrian statues from the early Renaissance by two different famous and rather competitive sculptors. One sculptor, not this one, managed to figure out how to raise a horse's hoof into the air. And as I said, this sculptor couldn't do it. You should know them both, okay? Either one of them could appear on the test. So here's another tough question. The College Board was obviously stretching to find a question about women in what was really a very male-dominated era. I've given you her portrait by Titian, though not her name. This, by contrast, is not an especially hard question, but this Raphael painting is one you should know. At any rate, it's a great story. Well, you may have noticed one change as we move forward is that you're going to have to know more artists' names. In the Renaissance, artists started consistently signing their work or otherwise making themselves known, and that's going to be true, alas, for the rest of the course. So here again, you need to keep your early and high Renaissance artists straight. It might help to go through the chapters and make two lists. Also, pay attention to who was a sculptor, who was a painter, or who was all of the above. Michelangelo is always all of the above. Let me note that the general multiple choice section is quite short. It's only 19 questions taken from 5 different tests. I was a little surprised by that at first, but the image-based multiple choice section is the longest you've seen. So when the College Board is looking at questions from the early and high Italian Renaissance, it's more likely to ask multiple image-based questions because this unit has so many really important works. So on to my next podcast, which will address the image-based questions.